can activate both like professionalism and my own personality, but if I feel like it might offend somebody or it won't be received as well as I think, then I kind of tone down my personality, and it might take away from connecting with our clients.
And it tones down the creativity, right? I think that is literally what happens if we work with another person. It like tones down our creativity in the sense of like, we're not sure what they like or what they would do in this scenario. We asked our listeners for some Q&As, and they are pretty juicy. We got quite a few responses, and so I'm so excited to go through them with you. There's too many to do in one episode, so we're going to have to kind of keep it short here, because if not, we could probably go on and on and on forever. But for now, let's dive straight into some of these questions, because I think that it's going to be interesting to get our opinions and our feedback on some of these things that you may be thinking about as a wedding professional. The first question that I have is tagging vendors in posts. Which ones should be tagged?
It's something that we've played around with in the past, well, especially with making them collaborators. I think that's one of the things that has changed over a while. It used to be like 1 or 2 collaborators. Now you can tag up to 5 and then tag on top of that. It's always a question that runs through our mind when we tag people at like a wedding video or something where it has, there's 10 vendors involved plus the couple plus a wedding party. So which one of those are important to tag? Which one do you make collab? I think personally, we even tag different things when if you post versus if I post. But I think tagging the couple is a big one, or collabing with the couple. The venue, me and you, and then any planners. Those are kind of the big ones that I see are really important to tag or to collab with. And then tagging the wedding party. I always like tagging all of them because it'll give them a notification that this thing got posted and they're a part of it. Even in the wedding world, sure, you might get in front of people and in front of their markets, like local florists and DJ and all of this stuff. We are already in that market. But if you tag the wedding party, I think they might share it into their friend group, which is a whole other, sea of fish.
Say, for instance, I posted a photo of a bride. She's standing alone in her wedding dress. Do I tag every single vendor that's there? Do I tag the musicians? Do I tag the officiant? Do I tag the catering company? I think the first photos that we share, or the first video that we share of the wedding, I like to tag absolutely everybody, right? Like tag the whole wedding party, tag all of the vendors who are involved, because everyone's excited and wanting to see those photos and videos. But I have a weird thing about tagging absolutely every single person, especially if not every person is kind of part of it. I don't know. That's just my thing anyways.
That makes sense. I wouldn't tag every single person either, because to me, if you tag somebody, you almost expect them to share it.
True.
And that's what I think.
Which they should.
Would I expect a musician to share the bride in her dress? No. But maybe the jewelry, the dress, the bride,
the hair and makeup.
Yeah, the hair and makeup, and maybe the venue, depending on what you see. I mean, I would probably tag the venue regardless because we shot there, but that's about it. Whatever's represented in the photo, I would tag them because they may want to share that work with their network.
The next question, what is it like working with your spouse full-time?
Next question.
Come on, tell them what it's like.
I just know that a lot of people can't work with their spouse full-time. I think there's definitely a learning curve that we've had to grow and
still grow.
Yeah, still growing. We're like a baby plant. We're still growing, it was a seed and then a plant.
Well, you put
fertilizer. Shout out to Mikey.
Yeah. My brother.
It's definitely something that's really fun if you can pull it off, but it's hard to get out of work mode at any point of the day. It gives us a lot to talk about because it's you own a business. There's so many hats that you're wearing. You're the accountant, you're the marketing person, you're the editor, the photo taker, you're everything.
Yeah,
so
sales team.
Exactly.
And we're parents.
Yeah, well, the parents, and you're like a husband, wife, or a son, a daughter, or the hats are endless. It's a very, very layered top hat. But working together, I think, gives us an edge in a lot of different things. People love it. They love our connection. They love us together and the environment that we create for our couples.
I think it helps because we have this relationship where we can just be ourselves with each other and we really understand how each other works. I can tell you when you're being a pain in the ass and you can tell me when I'm being a pain in the ass, and it's like just kind of part of it. And I think a lot of couples relate to us in that sense. Like they, not to say they look up to us, but they see themselves in us in some capacity.
I like to think that they look up to us, even if they don't. I'm like, yes.
Yeah, I think sometimes they look down, but we're not very tall people. How many times has it been where like the bride was like, I think I'm gonna have to get Luke's number because him and the groom are like totally vibing and like BFFs basically. And that to me just shows me that we work so well together, and I think that comes through with the couples can feel like they can be themselves too. It's just so easy for us. Like I already know what you're thinking and you already know what I'm thinking in every scenario that kind of is presented to us.
Yeah, we have this synergy on how we do things, the workflow that we put ourselves through. Like we move at a fast pace, but we're silly and we're ourselves. I can activate both like professionalism and my own personality, but if I feel like it might offend somebody or it won't be received as well as I think, then I kind of tone down my personality, and it might take away from connecting with our clients.
And it tones down the creativity, right? I think that is literally what happens if we work with another person, in the sense of like if we were doing video or if we were doing photo and like there's a video team, it like tones down our creativity in the sense of like we're not sure what they like or what they would do in this scenario. I know what we would do, and what we would do would be the same or very much the same vibe, and we would feed off each other, and it would just be this cool, fun, creative moment. But yeah, we don't get that when we don't work together. Like luckily, we've got second shooters, and we've been able to kind of build from there, but it's still not the same. We know when we work together, it's just going to be like that much better.
And even taking it offline, off of doing weddings themselves, even working together at home all the time with each other,
24/7.
no breaks. That also has its advantages because we're two people in on the same business. We can get twice as much work done on the business. For example, when we record these podcasts, I'm busy editing them and then you're busy posting them and coming up with the blogs. So I think we're twice as effective in our business. We can really double down on everything that we do together, and that just elevates us to the next level. We have a lot of discussions about our next steps. How do we make things better?
Yeah.
A lot of it is like arguing about stuff, but without those arguments, there wouldn't be two different points of views on how we can improve certain processes.
At the end of the day, we both want the same things, in the sense of like we know what our end goal is, and we work together so easily to get there because it's just part of what we do.
Well, it's a goal for both of us. I can imagine if, for example, I had a full-time job and you're running the business, and there's certain sacrifices that you just have to make in order to try to take your business to, there's risks involved. There's not only financial risk, but there's just risk of, if I spend this much time doing this, is there even a payoff?
Yeah.
There's skepticism, especially from somebody that isn't in a business, AKA my whole family that are all government employees. And when we came out to them at some point and said, we're gonna go full time into like doing photography.
Shots fired.
Yeah, and there's definitely a lot of that. They may not just believe in it as much, and that belief is actually such a huge part of knowing if your business is even going to make it.
Yeah.
Because sometimes it just takes a while.
Yeah.
It's not going to happen overnight.
No.
And if there's two of us on the same page going towards the same goal, it just makes that a little bit easier. There's not as much friction of, for example, I'm not going to make any income for a while because I'm going to be putting all my eggs into growing a business while the other one is paying for a lot of stuff or whatever the situation is. It can build that resentment between husband and wife or partners.
What we've been able to do is we have the same goals, we have the discussions, whether or not we agree with each other, that kind of comes through. But what ultimately happens is that we are able to create, I think, an atmosphere and an experience that we would want to have ourselves, then we're always thinking about that too, right? So I think that we really do truly have an advantage over a lot of people because of being a spouse. Ready for the next question?
Yeah.
Okay. Should wedding venues or other vendors on the wedding day have access to the photos you take on a wedding day for free at all, or as even part of their contract? I mean, we've seen it where venues have reached out to us and they've asked permission as part of their contract to get the photos from us. I've seen it where I think this is coming from is that some venues make it a requirement that they share the photos with them as part of like the couples signing their contract, that they have to share the photos with them.
But how does that work if a couple signs a contract with us saying that we own the photos and we just essentially share them with them, and then the venue is looking to get the photos from the couple? That seems a little bit odd to me.
First off, we always share, like to us. Like, let's just be honest.
I'm not saying that we don't. I'm just saying that like this is weird.
If any vendor asked us for photos or videos, even, we would give it to them, right?
I mean, I'm pretty sure we give it to them whether they ask for it or not.
I know. So like anybody, I mean, like. If you're looking for photos, like reach out. We've never been in a scenario where we said no. The only time that we say no is if the couple has requested that we don't share, right? And for privacy reasons, there's plenty of weddings that we've shot that just never see the light of day because the couple doesn't want us to. And so in that case, then no. But yeah, there's this thing going around where venues have like it in their contract that they have access to them. Now, to me, I think you should. I don't see what the benefit would be to not sharing your images with the venue.
Unless you feel like you're being forced to and you just don't like that.
Or maybe a venue was like awful to you all day, right? There's nothing worse than a vendor who's been like rude to you and then like all of a sudden is like, hey, can you take a photo of me, or can you like send me all the photos? Or we don't really see that in like our community here, but I'm sure it's happened where people have just been like, no, I don't want to share my stuff. And I don't think you have to, right? But to me, I think it's important that for your own growth, this is the one thing that we have, right, that we can do to help build our business. Like we were kind of talking about that with the hairstylist that we interviewed, and she said, like, you were like, what do you even do? How do you build relationships with people? I mean, she can go and do their hair, right? Like that's
but like the venue owner's hair, like.
I mean, maybe.
I guess, yeah, I know. We are very fortunate that we have something tangible that we can share.
Everybody needs.
Yeah,
right?
and obviously social media is a huge part of growing a business, and we essentially provide the bread and butter.
Yeah, like we're all that's left of this big, beautiful, planned event, right?
The only thing that would be a slap in the face is if they share it and they don't give credit.
Yeah, I mean, let's just call that. If you don't tag the photographer at a minimum, something that we do is we actually put all the tags into a Word document and we share it with people. So as I share the gallery, I'm like, here's also all the tags. So you can just copy paste, because I think it's important for them to also tag as many vendors as possible. But yeah, you definitely need to be tagging, especially the photographer, at a very minimum. Like if you're not, shame on you. Just tag
some things aren't worth the fight.
Yeah,
sometimes.
Just tag your vendors, right?
Just remember them for next time.
Tag your vendors. Are styled shoots good to help build your portfolio?
Duh.
What do you mean, duh?
Styled shoots are good to build your portfolio. I mean, as a photographer you're talking about, or kind of as anyone?
Anyone in the wedding industry.
Because it's literally the whole point of a styled shoot, is so that everyone comes out with photos or videos of what they contributed.
But, okay, flip side, should it be advertised as a real wedding, or should it always be advertised as a styled shoot? Because how many websites have we gone on and all of the photos are styled shoot photos?
I think if you had posted a whole bunch of photos of the styled shoot and you called it a real wedding as a gallery, I think, yeah, that has some shadiness to it. I don't think anyone's going to question like, oh, this one photo on the website or whatever.
But what if it's like the whole website? Like,
sure, yeah, but you fake it to make it. Like we've done that before. I mean, you sold me to do wedding video when I had never done a wedding video before, and you just gotta go and you gotta do it. And sure, maybe you just charge yourself low because that's the kind of quality you're going to provide.
Yeah.
But I don't think that you should be advertising like, oh, I shot this at this and I shot this at this. People will just know naturally by hiring you and then maybe leaving you a negative review. Like if you're that bad, you know, if you can't live up to the expectation that they want you to be, then you're opening up the door to some negative experiences, and then you're just going to have to face the consequences of that.
Should wedding vendors be dressed up on a wedding day?
Dressed up. It depends what's the term dressed up. They should be work appropriate. We keep to a certain standard, like we don't wear shorts or we don't wear running shoes, we don't wear Crocs. We make sure that we're dressed appropriately, especially if there's religious events, churches, things like that. It just depends on the vibe of the wedding and just making sure that you don't stand out in a negative way.
Yeah, I think wearing something that's appropriate. Like I've started wearing a little bit of color in the last year, and I've had people say to me like, oh, I see you buzzing around, but I'm looking for like usually this black outfit, but you're, you know, wearing pink or something. So to me, I've started to wear a little bit of color because I feel like it's just different. So to me, and it's also about comfort. So I started wearing a lot of dresses. And I think that that's okay as long as it's professional. The biggest thing for me is not showing like bra straps. I think that that's like a really unprofessional thing, or like not doing my hair and makeup. Now, there was one time where I was sick and I didn't wear any makeup because I just felt terrible, mostly because I was like constantly crying and sweating the whole time from like just my eyes being open and exposed to sun. It just made me feel terrible, but you should be showing up and like putting your best foot forward. Fake it till you make it.
There's a fine line between like trying to be comfortable but also trying to be professional, and I think if being professional means that you're just going to sweat a little bit more or not be as comfortable because you have to wear a long sleeve or long pants, just bring a change of clothing. And it could be like you change like later on at night or when it's reception time, but be mindful of that and tell your team, if you have other teammates to come, that they should also be dressing appropriately.
But like everyone, do you think like venue coordinators, florists, like do you think everybody should dress appropriately, or should they also be exempt?
We're lucky because we're behind the lens, but if we take photos of anyone else that's going to be there, just remember that it's going to be immortalized in a photo. Exactly. What you're going to look like. Yeah. So be mindful of that.
So don't wear pajamas.
Yeah, exactly.
What do you prioritize in the off season as a wedding vendor?
Marketing. Marketing is a big one. Social media and website updating are kind of the biggest ones that I can think of. You
should also be maybe vamping your systems, looking at all of the things that you have in place, maybe your contracts, looking at updating your bio, like all of that kind of stuff. So looking at your workflow too, right? Is there some things that maybe just don't apply anymore? You know, one of the things that I did recently to be a little bit more gender neutral is really went through all of our questionnaires to make them more gender neutral. So it's not just like him, her, it's like
they, them.
Instead of saying bride and groom, I'm trying to say wedding party. Those are some things that I think you need some concentration when you're doing that. It's really hard to do in the wedding season, but this is a really good time to be doing those
Another
things.
two things I just thought of is networking.
True.
So go for coffee with people, have meetings, calls, and like styled shoots is also a big one that you can maybe pull off when you're not in wedding season, and then continued education if you want to take any courses or go into any workshops.
All right, that's it for today. If you have any more questions that you'd like us to discuss, please send them in. This is super fun for us to go through. I'm sure there's going to be many more in future episodes, but thanks again. This was a lot of fun. See you next time.